One of the features of the letter to the Hebrews that we have seen, but which I haven't commented on yet or pointed out, is that the writer uses a particular piece of the philosophy of the Greek philosopher Plato. In today's epistle reading from the Daily Lectionary, the writer utilizes this feature of Platonic philosophy explicitly and in a way that seems particularly important to note. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Plato believed that ultimate reality exists in a non-material realm, and that what exists in the physical realm, the world in which we live, is what he called a shadow of the really real, called the form of reality. He famously used a parable about a man sitting in a cave to illustrate the relationship between forms, or true reality, and shadows, or what we see and experience in our material world. The parable goes something like this. Imagine a man who lived out his entire life in a cave, sitting in a chair facing a wall. Now imagine that there is a light source, a campfire, a torch, some other source, sitting on a shelf in that cave above and behind him, so that he doesn't see the actual light, but he sees the light on the wall before him reflected. Now imagine that someone takes cut-out figures of physical objects and parades them in front of the fire, so that the man sees the shadow of the object displayed on the wall before him. Now he sees the shadow of an object called a chair, now a table, and so on. As far as the man is concerned, what he sees projected on the wall before him are the actual tables and chairs or any other objects you might think of. He has no conception that what he is seeing is only a shadow projected on the wall, and that the actual idea of chair or table exists in a non-physical realm. Plato used this parable to talk not only about physical objects, but really about all reality. Love, compassion, law, these and any other non-physical ideas that we use to describe reality are simply shadows of a higher reality where the ideal forms of these things actually exist. There is the love we experience, and then there is an ideal form or idea of love that exists in the non-material realm. Okay, if you're a philosopher familiar with Plato, please forgive my very brief and inadequate description of Plato's understanding of reality, but it is enough to help us understand today's reading from Hebrews, where the writer contrasts the practice of sacrifice in the material world with the actual perfect sacrifice of Jesus Christ. The writer begins by saying, since the law has only a shadow of the good things to come and not the true form of these realities, it can never, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered year after year, make perfect those who approach. Otherwise, would they not have ceased being offered, since the worshippers, cleansed once for all, would no longer have any consciousness of sin? But in these sacrifices there is a reminder of sin year after year, for it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. The laws that establish sacrifice in the Torah are a mere shadow of the higher reality or form of the good that exists in the mind of God. And as mere shadows of the higher reality, then, sacrifices under the law have to be repeated in order to continue to remind worshippers of their sin. The blood of bulls and goats only points to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the final forgiveness of sin through his blood. Our writer continues, saying, consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, but a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sin offerings you take no pleasure. Then I said, see, God, I have come to do your will, O God. In the scroll of the book it is written of me. When he said above, you have neither desired nor taken pleasure in sacrifices and offerings, and burnt offerings and sin offerings, these are offered according to the law, then he added, see, I have come to do your will. He abolishes the first in order to establish the second. and it is by God's will that we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Now, to be clear, there is no indication here that the writer of Hebrews understands material reality not to be real. In fact, there were philosophies floating around the church and the surrounding culture in those days that denied the importance of material reality, some even naming material reality as pure evil, and the creator of the material world to be an evil God. This is not part of our Christian understanding, and those ideas do not seem to be part of our writer's understanding of things. But he appropriates this idea of Plato's categories of form and shadow simply to serve to highlight the relationship between the practice of sacrifice in earthly sanctuaries and the ultimate sacrifice made by Jesus Christ. When we return tomorrow, the writer of Hebrews urges his congregation to have confidence in the sacrifice offered by Christ, since it is, after all, a form of sacrifice higher than earthly forms. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.